Kia ora and a big wiggly welcome to the Niche Cast, coming straight at you live and direct. Not live, but maybe direct, depending on how you are consuming this Niche Cast, either on YouTube or on iTunes, via iTunes. We are coming at you after the Blackcaps defeated Bangladesh in the second ODI. And for those who don't know, my name is the Diggity Doodah Doc, sometimes known as, depending on who you talk to, Senor Jefe. And as always, I'm joined by the wobbly wildcard. We've got a wiggly welcome and the wobbly wildcard. We will discuss all things Blackcaps and Bangladesh after the second ODI. And in handing over the microphone speaking duties to the wildcard, I raise the idea of thoughts, ideas, and other things popping up through your subconscious, wildcard, and how you interpret those thoughts and ideas, because it's been quite prevalent in my life recently. Just random ideas, random thoughts that aren't random at all. They are popping up and raising from the loins of my subconscious and into my reality. What are your ideas on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, pretty wobbly this morning, you're not wrong there. Second of all, you know, when you said that and then I responded, it's funny how the best ideas seem to come from the subconscious, right? And then we stopped talking because we thought this should be recorded, so now we're recording it. But do you find that as well? In fact, even more specifically, I think my best ideas seem to come just when I'm surrounded in silence, like complete lack of distractions. You'd think like inspiration is what you need. See one thing, come up with an idea off that. But I find my best ideas often like, and oh man, I guess I gotta make a shameful admittance here that I broke my what was I up to, about 61-day meditation streak yesterday, because just too many people around, mate. I couldn't find time for myself, and I'm very embarrassed about that, but I'm gonna guess just start a new streak is how it goes, eh? It doesn't really matter about yesterday or tomorrow. Whole point is to stay mindful today. So, but I find when I'm meditating is often when I have really good ideas, and it's frustrating because it's the time I don't want ideas, because I'm trying to clear my head and just focus on, like, singular focus on my breathing. But yeah, it's an interesting old way that the muses work, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you got to look past it as being like random. As long as you're tuned
it's not
in
random
and aware, then you understand that it's coming to you for a reason, and it's coming from a place that is a very real place. The subconscious and all that stuff is a very real place that is kind of feeding you what you need to know in that moment. And yeah, as long as this goes for meditation, it goes for eating well, it goes for any little habit that you're trying to do. You can miss one day, and then as long as you don't miss 2 days and you bounce back, it's all good. So that's another little gem for the listeners of the Niche Cast. Wildcard, we will get into some Blackcaps Bangladesh discussion very soon, but we love our music here. Last time I talked about the Currency Wiz Khalifa 2009 project which came out, and late last year we had an Earl sweatshirt project as well. Some rap songs, I believe. Brilliant the title was. And we'll kind of offer our hard and fast thoughts on that, because I was just listening to it last night as I was kind of writing down some post Blackcaps thoughts and preparing for today. It's just a beautiful collection of sounds and poetry. Obviously, Earl Sweatshirt's got the family history and the poetry kind of thing. And another interesting quote here, Wildcard, I can't remember who this is from, but it's from the Tim Ferriss podcast, was depression is a sign of a fully lived life. Because to live life to the fullest, you've got to experience all the highs and lows. And after hearing that quote, then I listened to Earl Sweatshirt's some rap songs, and I was like, there's a beauty in that kind of low element of life, and that's how you are able to live a fully lived life. And some people might say it's like sad songs and stuff like that, or it's just not doing it for me because it's just too Earl Sweatshirty. But that's the whole point. That's where the beauty, that's where the magic is.
Yeah, all 25 minutes of magic in that album, eh? It's the one frustration I had was that it was so bloody short. But, I mean, I won't go all in on this idea right now because it'll take us an hour, but I've got a pretty, firm theory I like to live my life by, is this idea of, I don't exactly know what the word for it would be. It's go like dualities or that kind of thing, where, happy people just want to be happy all the time, right? And if you're happy all the time, you're not happy at all, if that makes sense. Because the way I see it is that happiness and sadness are the same thing on a sliding scale. The more happy you are, directly correlated, the less sad you are. So you could just say happiness is a lack of sadness, but then if you take out the sadness altogether, you don't have any happiness because you've busted the scales. Sort of like how the way they say, the color black is just every color all at once, or no, is it the absence of color? Black is the absence of all other colors, and white is all of them together. And then you take out degrees, and then you got the same thing. I think everything's like that. Light and dark is probably the easiest example to explain. I mean, everything exists on like a scale between one thing and the other, and if you get rid of the other, you don't have the first thing. So yeah, you gotta go through the roller coaster experience a few sad times. Earl's been there. I like how, man, I mean, the dude's always been able to chuck a few bars together, but the dude's got such I guess clarity in the way he writes now. He's not showing off, he's not trying to do anything, he's just putting like truth out there, which is pretty powerful stuff, especially when it's such personal truth as it was in that album. I mean, there's like samplings of his parents and stuff. It's a hell of a record. I reckon if he hadn't sort of buried it at the end of the year, he'd be getting even more praise for it. But then the fact he did that just shows, an artist who doesn't care. He's just looking for his own truth, and that's it.
Wobbly Wildcard just coming out swinging with
to the fences.
Life insights that you should all note down, because that's exactly what I did, because we all know the yin and the yang, the duality of life.
That's it.
And Blackcaps versus Bangladesh Wildcard. This is turning out to be a bit of an, I wouldn't say interesting. There's entertainment because Guptill's scoring runs and there's a couple of wickets happening. I wouldn't even go far as to say it's been fun. It hasn't even been like that kind of depressive Earl Sweatshirty type of ODI cricket, the absorbing, the gritty, the niggly ODI cricket. It's been just somewhere in the middle. And my major observation from that ODI, the second ODI, and thus both ODIs, because they've been pretty much the same, is the Blackcaps have won fairly easy in both games. But in no way, shape or form have they been truly dominant. And they've won fairly easy, but they haven't just given Bangladesh a hiding. And they've been kind of sloppy, they've been a bit scrappy, and nothing from these Bangladesh ODIs with this group that has been selected for these Bangladesh ODIs, nothing from it suggests that the Blackcaps will win the World Cup.
No, nothing at all. I mean, they were super sloppy in that second ODI. It was dropped catches, misfields, and they were kind of rubbish. Not to mention all the extras is the other thing, eh? I mean, Colin de Grandhomme coming in and bowling about 2 extra overs or whatever he got up to with all his wides. It's not. Yeah, it's been a weird series. I don't know that we've learned anything about anyone. I mean, even I caught the end of the news yesterday on the tally, And, headline, of course, very, very mainstream media here. Martin Guptill back in form with another ODI century. It's like, but he should be doing this to this Bangladesh attack. The fact he got 2 in a row is nice, but you'd expect him to get 100 this series. I'd be very disappointed if he didn't. Same as Kane Williamson getting some runs. I mean, it's nice to see him. He's looked alright all summer, but he's just had a tendency to throw his wicket away in weird ways. I guess as India ramped the pressure up specifically. But yeah, it's odd. I think my main takeaway is this thing that if they're trying to find out about any of these all-rounders, any of these bowlers, and Tim Southee hasn't been playing, and they've cycled through all these dudes, but the one guy who seems to play every single week is Trent Boult, and I don't, the fact is we're not going to learn anything about any of these other bowlers, not even Matt Henry opening alongside him, because Trent Boult comes in, gets a couple early wickets every time, and then the Bangladesh is just going to be struggling from the start, and that's the way it was. Like, they struggled from the start, and the Blackcaps didn't put their foot on the gas and clean them up. They just sort of cruised with it and won pretty easy, but they were always on top.
The idea of Martin Guptill, you said like he's doing what he should be doing, and I ran through a whole bunch of stats this morning in writing about it, so I don't want to just regurgitate those stats, but the main one was that Colin Munro averages 48 against Bangladesh, which isn't just considerably higher than his career average of 25 in ODI cricket.
It's almost double.
It's also the highest average he's got, opponent specific.
You know who else had a huge average against Bangladesh was Neil Broom.
Oh, the legend.
The legend. The
sweepster. I don't know what he's the legend of, but he's
Otago
a legend.
Cricket.
Otago Cricket, that's the one. I actually loved Neil Broom when he first came into the Blackcaps.
Yeah, so did I. He's had a bit of untapped potential there that he never quite got to, eh?
Yeah, and then his late career Blackcaps resurgence was almost peak lesson antics.
Almost, because he was around with that whole Champions Trophy disaster. Almost, but not quite, because peak lesson antics would have been squeezing Luke Ronchi in at late notice to be the Brendan McCullum opener. Never made sense.
Affirmative. So I just have this idea that I can't shake, that if Colin Munro was batting in place of Martin Guptill in these two ODIs versus Bangladesh, Colin Munro probably comes out, strike rate of 150, and scores, 60 in the first game and then 95 in the second game. And everyone's like, Colin Munro should be at the World Cup, and it's like, what the fuck? He's just doing what he always does. He's beating up the shit team in Colin Munro fashion, and you can feel the frustration in my voice, because as someone whose whole shtick right now is to try and assess the Blackcaps in the World Cup context, there is absolutely nothing there for me other than the Blackcaps are blatantly looking like they will not win the World Cup. Now, this is different to other versions of the Blackcaps that I've seen throughout the summer. Even against India, you could see that if a few pieces were tweaked, if different players were in different form, if a few bits and pieces, there was potential for a strong World Cup team. Against Sri Lanka, there was such pure, utter dominance that you were like, these guys, there's potential there for World Cup success. These Bangladesh games, there's nothing. There's just World Cup mediocrity. So that's kind of how I'm sitting at the moment. Now, you had a couple of other ideas on guys who weren't in that second ODI wildcard, and we will head down that route for the last 5 to 10 minutes here. So hit me up.
Well, I want to chuck one thing out to you here, and that's old Mitchell Santner didn't play that game. Almost didn't notice he was not there. His batting's been pumped up for so long that it's just getting tiresome, because he's a number 8 at best. He's a good number 8, but he's a pretty average number 7. So yeah, I'm not sure about that all-rounder role with him. This is the thing, because for so long I've got absolutely zero problem with Mitchell Santner as an ODI bowler. I think his test stuff gets overrated, probably some more Guptill syndrome at work there. But as an ODI bowler, doesn't take a lot of wickets, average therefore isn't that great, but he's so good at just like tying a team down. But I'll be honest, he hasn't looked that good since coming back from injury, and that's understandable. Obviously, he just hasn't had enough cricket. But do you reckon the World Cup's coming a little too soon for him? Like, is he going to be dead set first 11 come World Cup time?
I think he will, but it won't be based on like logic.
Yeah, I almost think if he will, it's because they don't know what they're doing with their other spinners, and so they're just going to fall back on the tried and true.
It's like if Mitchell Santner's playing at the World Cup, it's probably going to be because of the Luke Ronke syndrome, where like they just work themselves into a corner where they have to pick Mitchell Santner. Yeah. Not probably based on the fact that he's scoring runs and taking wickets and he offers something. But the point that you made that his absence hasn't been like visible, or it's been visible, but I don't know how to better word that, but that you haven't really noticed his absence. Yeah, that's 100% true, and you could say there's not a whole lot of difference between Todd Astle and Mitchell Santner right now, considering, well, both of them have like celebrated batting that hasn't actually turned out to be all that good in the international ODI arena, and that celebrated batting is kind of the reason they have been selected ahead of Ish Sodhi. Ish Sodhi, like, his batting is better suited for those roles, I would suggest, than both Mitchell Santner and Todd Astle. So Todd Astle, I just don't think his batting is good enough. And then Mitchell Santner, if he's going to bat in international cricket, here is the hottest of hot takes.
Says Len.
Mitchell Santner should be opening.
Well now.
Because I'm not saying he should open, but his batting is not at all suited to whacking boundaries later in the innings. Ish Sodhi has shown time and time again that he can hit a couple of sixes and, hit 7 off 2 balls to finish an innings, 15 off 5 balls to finish an innings. Mitchell Santner is like I like Mitchell Santner's batting, but a lot of his batting prowess is better suited to the top order shit where he has to, play a stroke and then defend and then leave and rotate the strike and that sort of stuff. We've only seen Mitchell Santner in international cricket having to play a lower order slogger role, which he has shown time and time again that he can't do, and I believe that makes people think that he can't bat very well. So if you're going to select the spinner based on their batting, which is a terrible thing to do anyway, for those lower order roles where you need to have a strike rate of at least 95 heading into this World Cup, right now I feel like Ish Sodhi is the best dude for that job because he just hits boundaries. Like, Ish Sodhi showed in Test cricket that he can grit his teeth and, fight for an innings. He's got that aspect to his batting and his mentality as well. But in ODI limited overs cricket, Ish Sodhi is a very one-dimensional batsman, and that is a great thing for that role that he plays with the bat in the lower order. He just comes out and hits boundaries, or tries to.
Very Southey-esque in the limited forms, I would suggest.
Yeah,
but
that's exactly what you
tests
need.
Where he's actually got a couple half centuries. He's pretty underrated batsman, I reckon, considering how often his batting has been held up against him in terms of selection. And honestly, if anyone ever suggests that fielding plays a part in this, and maybe it does when it comes to Gavin Larson, I don't know, but if you're honestly picking your players based on fielders, then you probably should commit yourself to the nut house or something. I mean, for one thing, Todd Astle dropped a sitter of a catch yesterday as well, but any team in the world's going to have a few fielders who aren't as good as others. You only need 3 or 4 like world-class guys. You put them where the ball's going to go. Guptill's there. Nichols is there. Even Santner, if he plays, which I think he will, another great fielder. You know, you're sorted there. You have one guy at point, one guy at mid-wicket. Done. Maybe one guy on the boundary. Southey's got great hands. He'll probably play. If he's not playing, he'll be a 12th man, and someone can fake an injury, get him out there. You know, there's pretty... It's a pretty weak way of judging a player.
Weak and lazy, but the thing
Definitely lazy.
Is Ish Sodhi's fielding at fine leg really that bad? Does he drop many catches?
He doesn't drop too many. Not many Blackcaps drop too many. Even Ross Taylor dropped 2 against Bangladesh, so I guess that was just an off day. I mean, Ross Taylor's probably the greatest slips fielder New Zealand's ever had, Stephen Fleming notwithstanding. So if he can drop some, anyone can. You just don't know. It's like, I feel with Ish Sodhi sometimes, you know how there's that reputation he's got about the one bad ball and over? And then that bad ball comes, and then people are like, oh, well, there it is. Nah. And it's like, I watched Todd Astle bowl against Bangladesh, and he bowled 5 bad balls and over, and just wasn't getting tonked because Bangladesh were in rebuild mode because Trent Bolt skittled the top order once again.
Yeah. And Ish Sodhi, he's gonna run around the boundary. Sure, he might not save every boundary that comes his way because he's had to sprint 15 metres to get there and put in a massive dive, but he's always sprinting there, he's always putting in a massive dive, and he's fielding at fine leg. Like, he does his job for that position in the field, and I just think maybe because he's Indian,
yeah,
that, you know,
subcontinent fielders.
You know, he's... and because you hear it from commentators. I've heard it from the radio sport commentators talking about how superior Todd Astle is at batting, how superior Todd Astle is in the field.
It's a myth, eh?
It's so surface level that it's borderline racist.
There we go. That's what people are listening to the podcast for. I mean, I just think it's... No player in international cricket these days, with all the training you got to do to get to that point, there's nobody who's such a bad fielder that you can't hide them if you need to. And hiding isn't even the right word, because it makes it sound like you're trying to, you know, bury them, disguise them somewhere and not have to deal with them. I mean, everyone can sit in and do a job. Everyone can take a catch if it's hit to them, you know what I mean? It's just... As long as you got those 3 or 4 like world-class fielders just to do the special things, you're sorted. You don't need 11 great fielders. It's just such a waste. You need runs and wickets way more than you need like like someone saving 2 runs by diving over and flicking one in on the boundary kind of thing.
Do you? All right. Well, is it all right if we finish with this wild card? We'll run through the general Blackcaps squad and classify who are like above average.
Yeah,
fielders.
Great idea. Great idea. Let's do
right.
that.
So, Martin Guptill, well above average. Henry Nichols,
like world class above average.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to put the like.
I'll do it.
If you're above average, you're above average. You don't need to get
okay.
too specific.
We'll just go above average or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry Nichols above average.
Ross Taylor.
Above average in terms of what he does. He's not going to like chase around the field, but he's an outstanding catcher.
I think he's outstanding at everything. Kane Williamson.
I reckon he's above average. Great run-out merchant. Takes good catches.
Yeah. Tom Latham behind the stumps, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Mitchell Santner.
Above average. He's got springs in his feet.
I'll throw up one more name because these are the guys who are like certain first 11 players.
Yep.
Trent Bolt.
Bolt's an interesting one. I think I would say above average. Where he fields, he's not fielding at point. I reckon he's above average well, you've seen him take some outstanding catches. I think if you put him on the boundary, he's very good. If
he's 100% above average. Like
okay, well there you go then. I thought you were leaning the other way.
Why are you even talking about that?
No,
all right, so that's maybe Mitchell Santner's not a certainty, but that's like that's the majority.
Enough.
That's the majority of your first 11 who are above average fielders.
Yeah, sorted. That's even more than I was saying before.
So why do you even need to like select other players on their fielding when the majority of your squad aren't just good fielders, aren't just job-doing fielders, they are above average / excellent fielders.
Preach on, my son.
The other thing, say, Lockie Ferguson, often fielding inside the circle. He has proven himself to be, in my eyes, an above-average fielder. Now, after this summer.
Yeah, I'm holding the jury out a little bit on that, but he's pretty solid.
Well, let me put it this way. Tim Southey, Matt Henry, Colin de Grandhomme, Lockie Ferguson, Doug Bracewell, all those like seam bowler dudes will not let you down in the field.
Nah, fair enough.
So if you are selecting
The
one or
11th
two
guy in the team.
Yeah, one or two places in the team based purely on fielding, that's just a weird idea because...
Well, it's not purely on fielding, it's also purely on how well someone can bat at number 10 or 11 as well. Scratch your head for that one as well.
Well, that's... We've talked our way through that.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
We sure have.
So it's just this, all of that just sums up how I feel about this like Blackcaps cricket right now.
Yep. And the funny thing is that they keep winning. At least against Bangladesh. So everyone's gonna swing. The tide turns so quickly, with the old there was something I was thinking the other day. And that is that New Zealand cricket, I don't know exactly, I don't want to just say like the mainstream media reportage of it, because I don't think it's fair to just say that. I think it's the wider New Zealand cricket culture, very specifically including, the fan culture as well. I think there's a pretty significant recency bias problem with them. You know, Guptill could go 15 innings without a score above 10, and then score 100 against Bangladesh, and you know the headline will be Martin Guptill back in form, just in time ahead of the World Cup, without any other context, you know what I mean? Suppose that's our job to balance that.
The Niche Cast. We are here after every Blackcaps ODI.
It's what we do.
Just moving forward into the future, we'll try and talk about other sports as well. So if you are hating cricket, and you are holding out hope that the Niche Case and the Niche Cast will cover other sports, kia kaha, stay true, and we will come at you with other sports. Wildcard, do you have any other wide-ranging final thought for our listeners?
I don't know, I think I chucked them all out at the start there.
Lovely.
Yeah, right.
When is the third ODI? When are we looking at coming back for these beautiful people?
I'm not even sure. I'm sitting out of internet range here. It must be, Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that? Midweek
yeah,
sometime.
Some fucking time.
We'll
Who
get back
fucking
in a couple
cares?
of days,
We'll just,
mate. Listen
we'll
to this
just
one
wrap it up.
first.
Yeah, we'll just wrap it up now and just say, fuck yeah, just wait. Wait
Yeah.
for the next Niche Cast, and
Be
we'll
patient.
be here after that game. We appreciate all the fans of the Niche Case. Thank you for being different.